This is like my 10th side event this DevCon, and I have to say that was kind of the coolest walk-on we've done so far. I'm already hyped, so hopefully we get into it right away. We're here to chat about Preconfs. Controversial subject lately.
Yeah.
Should we start before we get into the spice talking about what Preconfs are and where the current situation of them is relative to Ethereum?
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we can start with a temp check on the audience to see who heard about Preconfirmations before. Yeah, raise your hand. Yeah. Okay, and now please keep your hand if you know particularly how it would work. Okay, so yeah, very controversial one.
Yeah. I guess it's hard to know particularly how it worked because there's a lot of competing proposals. I think there's 300 people in the Telegram chat about the Preconfs, and I think a lot of different teams working on this. My understanding, Justin Drake kind of has been pushing this idea really hard, or was it in the past. What do you think he sees as the main idea, the main benefits of Preconfs?
Yeah, okay, let me explain my vision. So, first of all, I think that now our goal is Ethereum community members to try to came with something that we can test in prod more. And the idea behind Preconfirmations that you actually can have some economical finality. So, let me get back a little bit about how it works. So when you send transaction, it's not final right instantly, right? So you need to wait for some time when you get finality, because you need to time all this validator, do some attestation, whatever, and in a while it's become final. Unless it's reorganization or other stuff that would happen, right? But it's too long, yeah? And especially given a lot of new blockchain like Solana, Ton, and other blockchains, people think, okay, can we do better? Can we do better with our Ethereum network and rollups and other ecosystem things? And it's actually how Preconfirmations idea. It's kind of people came with this idea, and. So the idea that when you send a transaction, you can have some economical finalities in a way that some validators can say, okay, I'm put some funds on stake, and if this transaction would fail, wouldn't pick up by in a block, this stake of this validator or whatever other actor would burn or slashed. And I think that the main benefit for user is to actually, you can have almost instant confirmations, but not full, not this by consensus confirmation, but rather than economical one. So this is the main idea.
Yeah, I think to summarize what you just said, the main idea currently today in Ethereum, blocks are 12 seconds long. And so if you come in anywhere in that middle period, you might be waiting 9 seconds to see your transaction landed on chain. And this technology, the idea, the kind of good part of it that people are excited about is that now I can send my transaction and I don't have to wait for the proposer to include it in a block. They can tell me, I'm going to include it in a block and I'm paying you money if I don't include it. And so I'm going to give you a pre-confirmation that it's included and you can behave as if it was included. And this is going to be hopefully better for UX, making apps feel a lot faster, which is something. So for some context on me, since I'm not sure people know, but I work at SMG, which is part of Consensys. And we do a lot of special projects work with MetaMask, working on transactions, transaction submission, land time, et cetera. And this is one thing we're potentially excited about, is that we can have an experience where a user can click a button and immediately confirmation pops up, not having to wait for the schedule of Ethereum itself. But of course, I think there are some downsides and things we need to be careful of before we go ahead and say, yes, let's do this.
Yeah, it's a lot of downsides. So maybe, I don't know, which one we start from why you bullish about it or why you bearish about it? Which one you prefer?
I mean, I'm happy to take the bearish side if you want the bullish side.
Okay, yeah, because I'm always optimistic about stuff. So yeah, should I start Okay, so yeah, why I'm bullish about Preconfirmations? To be honest, I think that, yeah, whole idea, let's make Ethereum like Solana again. It's very nice. In a sense, like having like much faster finality, because it's actually what people want to have. You can say, okay, Eugene, why do we need this at all? Like we have like centralized sequencer, like for this whole optimism stack, like it's already work, right? So it's already there. But actually, preconfirmation is infrastructure that allow us to get the same UX as with centralized sequencer, but in decentralized environment. And actually, in the future, so right now, let me give you some landscape of what is going on right now. So right now, it's a lot of different flavors of preconfirmation, the different team exploring, but I think that the closer one to production is actually inclusion preconfirmation. So it's actually a very simple promise of inclusion of transaction, put some stake, and stake on an event that actually this transaction will be included. But also, there are another type of credible commitment, so you can actually make it these preconfirmations more generalized in a way that you can say like, okay, I want to ask a validator to put some money on some commitment about states after my, for example, after execution of my transaction would be particular state like that in smart contracts. For example, it's like front run protection, sandwiching, or whatever. It also might be very important for synchronous composability for rollups, because with preconfirmation, what you can do, you can actually preconf not single transaction, but batch of transactions that advanced state in a different rollups in an atomic way, or so it's like kind of one transaction but batched in a way. Yeah. What else? Also, I'm really bullish. It's controversial, but I'm very bullish about this is lean approach. How we as a community try to approach this. So for sure, current protocol implementation, Ethereum protocol implementation, is not very suitable for implementing preconfs, and we are doing it in a very ugly way, but in the same time, it allows us to test this in prod, to actually see how much is demand, how people actually would use it. For example, it's a lot of different opportunities, and it's more like about, like building in public instead of, go for next 5 years, rebuild protocol for that. So we can just test it right now instead of do so.
Yeah, I'm all for shipping and not waiting 5 years for incremental changes. So that's kind of music to my ears. Just to summarize what you said, I think there are two different types of preconfs. There are inclusion preconfs, which are you made it into the block, but your transaction may not execute as you want it to. And then there are execution preconfs. And the execution preconfs actually say, not only did your transaction make it into the block, but also the state of that transaction will be what you expect it to be, and it will execute as you expect it. And I think those two are qualitatively different. The pricing market for inclusion in Ethereum, at least today, is quite predictable within the slot. So we know only about 3% or so of blocks are full right now. And so that means the pricing market for inclusion preconfs is actually quite easy to do as the proposer. You don't have too many issues where you offer a price to somebody and then that price is the wrong price and you regret later that you offered them an inclusion preconf because now you don't have enough room for higher fee-paying transactions. So I would say on the inclusion preconf side, I think that's relatively kosher and would be great for something like a transfer.
So on the inclusion, you're a little bit bullish, but what you're bearish on, actually?
Yeah, I think when it gets into these execution preconfs, you start to get into trouble. And let me give an example. So say we had an execution preconf for the right to touch the Uniswap v3 5 basis point USDC ETH pool. So that pool is the most traded pool, the most ARB pool on Ethereum, highest liquidity, etc. There's a lot of value from being able to touch that pool if you have some information about the price of ETH, say on Binance. And the question becomes, as the proposer, how do I price that state ahead of time? I might say, okay, the price is $100 for that state if you want it ahead of time. What's going to happen is whenever the price moves enough that there's an ARB that's more than $100 available, they're going to come and have a race condition, like a big race to try and get to the pre-confer first and get the $100 thing that gives them a $200 opportunity. And that's kind of how Solana works today a little bit with this continuous execution, shred stream stuff. And it's not a great market structure because it causes a lot of spam. It causes a lot of performance issues downstream of that spam. And so I think we need to be very careful whenever we make changes like this that affect deeply the market structure to kind of go down the list, forecast steps and steps ahead until we get to the equilibrium that eventually results in them. And I think there's a few people who've been doing some good work on looking at these execution pre-conf stuff, but I think it's still very nascent, and I'm still quite uncomfortable with that as the future market structure for Ethereum.
Oh, yeah. What about short sequencing for base rollup? Or like about that idea? Are you bullish or bearish mostly?
I think we need to see some more improvements to the L1 for base rollups to look really attractive. So hopefully we see those. I think that's the nice advantage of base rollups is you get taxed by the L1 proposer a lot for being a base rollup. You don't get to run your own sequencer because it happens at the L1 level by the block producer there. But in return, you get some potential synchronous interoperability, which you can't get with a normal rollup. But I think there are some other solutions that are kind of trying to bring that type of synchronous interoperability. I know Espresso is working on this, that are for regular rollups that do run their own sequencers and can still provide some of these synchronous interops. So I'm not necessarily convinced that we need to go to base rollups just to get this synchronous interop. And even then, I think we just build blocks faster. Like if block times were 1 second, we would not be having this conversation because everybody would be pretty happy with the way that their transaction landing experience works. Instead, they're 12 seconds, and so we're talking about it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I'm a little bit more bullish, I guess, in a way that I see like a lot of issues, but like initially pre-confirmations, even for me, it seemed like, okay, it's crazy stuff, let's try to do it, but it's trust assumption very ugly. I don't know, people just, a lot of different opinions how to do it. And now, for example, when we started, so I guess several first calls with Justin was like really like main idea and a lot of people proposing something. And now it's converged, like, so it's mostly converged to some like several ideas. And now it's sounds more like, okay, we probably can build it, and if we can use it actually, I don't know, in a half of year in a wallet. People would see like, wanna have this like additional preconfs tip, and we would see like how people would use it. So it's actually very depend on a wallet, but right now wallets starting to be interested in it and actually like, I don't know, take a look on it and try to participate in testnets. So I think that the same would happen with the rollups maybe in next 2-3 years. And actually, yeah, even if we wouldn't have like this Beam network, I don't know, in 3-5 years, like we need something faster and we can really test it in prod.
Yeah, I think I would say just to kind of do a devil's advocate on why not to test in prod in these kind of situations. I think one of the issues is when there's these complicated economic mechanisms, we need a lot of testing data for a long time because it takes a long time to get to the actual equilibrium of the mechanism. So we saw this with PBS, right? The PBS system launched as soon as the merge happened, and for about a year we had a pretty competitive builder market with about 5 or 6 substantive players and a long tail of other players. We had a bunch of relays happily operating, and like a year later it kind of very quickly centralized to the system which it is today, where there are basically 2 builders building almost all of Ethereum blocks. And that's not something that you can predict from testing in prod because you need to like have so much training data. Like a year of Ethereum economic training data is really expensive, and it's hard to search the space and try to find the optimal thing when every time you need a year. So that would be my pushback on that.
Yeah. Okay, I have a question to you specifically. What do you think for users? Okay, assume we have launched like some preconfirmations or several preconfirmation protocol, and it's integrated to wallets, and now would it be, I don't know, more like cheaper for users, for example, for L1 users? Would it be cheaper transaction? For example, if you have now you have not only spot price of gas, but actually like near future, or would it's kind of wouldn't affect the price at all?
I think my perspective, I think it should be higher because the price of you're pricing in an option, which is like I'm buying gas now. I might have some information about the fact that gas will be more or less expensive in the future. I think it should be higher. I think that's one of the things that we need to look at closer. But in general, when you sell things ahead of time, you end up basically pricing the optionality, and that can usually end up in slightly higher. I think, again, for inclusion, I don't think that you would see that much of an issue. I think maybe we should just do inclusion preconfs for transfers or whatever. Probably would be a great user experience. I'd be happy to see it in MetaMask and see our users using it. One of the things we notice actually is just we do user research and we look at the user and kind of look at the way they behave when they submit a transaction. And for the most part, the model that we have, mental model, is they submit the transaction and they look at the transaction submission screen and they just kind of like wait anxiously for it to land. And that is a terrible experience. But then going back, I think on the execution side, going back to that example from before with the Uniswap v3 pool, that is going to be a tremendously expensive preconf, and you might not need to have it at all.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if it's like some transactions that might include like MEV opportunities, it would be harder than just transfers. But sorry, a little bit about like bullish side. I mean, like I tried demo for like built by Bolt protocol. It's and when you see in your MetaMask just instant transaction, that's not finality, but okay, it's a green like check, like it's so cool from UX perspective. You like literally like you have like dopamine cycle like inside your brain, like you sign it and just done. So it's just pre-confirmed, and I don't know. I think that a lot of people would love it, but yeah, the question that would it be feature for mostly for L1 users? I mean, like now probably, yeah, but I guess the main users for future is the rollups, and more like protocols that would build on top of this feature to achieve like synchronous composability and better settlement on L1, I guess. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good point. I think it would be, the upside is so high because that instant confirmation experience is like so amazing, and I think we're like really excited to be able to bring something like that eventually to the MetaMask wallet and see the joy that it gives users. The other question is whether the downstream effects for execution preconfs in particular are so bad for the market structure that they cause spam, they cause higher spreads, they cause other kinds of issues, sandwiching, whatever, that are not enough to kind of be outweighed by the great user experience. Like, if we don't have DeFi anymore because the market structure is so cooked that it just doesn't work, I think users would prefer waiting for their transaction than like not having DeFi markets at all.
Yeah, and another like bullish take is like PBS. It's so cursed area because it's constantly on a PBS meetups, PBS conference. It's like all the same guys, like actually they're exploring MEV. I mean, like the same topic, and now we have something new. And so maybe it's time to disrupt PBS a little bit. Yeah, we're also like in Lido exploring it. Like So my goal is to push it in a way that to have it for Lido validators earlier than later. And we're working like with right now with one Preconfirmations protocol, Bolt, but also happy to explore like others. So yeah, like what's your take about, I don't know, production? I don't know when we can expect it, mass adoption of Preconfirmation.
I think we're happy to start experimenting with it as soon as technologies like that are ready and the proposers are ready. We run about 3% of mainnet validators at Consensys, happy to help on that side too. Like I said, I think especially inclusion preconfs are like an insanely high unlock for user experience, and we're always looking for those ways to improve the MetaMask product. I think on the when it's going to be ready, I think that's maybe a question for you.
I think that in a Q2 it might be, but it depends on like a lot of things. So we're still like exploring, but actually, I guess it's some protocol already launched it or like planning to launch next week something. So yeah, it's a very hot topic.
May the best pre-confirmation win. I understand we have like 3 presentations about getting into the details, so we can stop yapping and let the experts take the stage.
Yeah. So thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, thanks for this. Was a lot of fun.
Thank you, folks. That was amazing.